Hello and welcome to this edition of Talking Around the Library Tree, another one in the series where I, Andy, am interviewing one of my faculty librarian colleagues. In this episode, I'm talking to Paul Newnham, who is the librarian for FASS, the Teaching and Learning Librarian for FASS.
That's right.
Yeah, so welcome to the show, Paul. Great to have you here. So first question is, can you tell us what your role is and how you can help students?
So I'm the faculty librarian for Faculty of Arts and Social Sciences. So I cover about 9 different departments: educational research, English and creative writing, politics, philosophy, religion, linguistics. You get the idea.
Yeah.
Mostly in the humanities, sociology and social work. And as you mentioned, I'm a faculty librarian, teaching and learning. So it's got a teaching and learning focus. I would say teaching library research skills, or what we might refer to in the business as information literacy skills. So that might be planning search strategies, understanding the academic landscape. So I was talking to people, first years the other day, about what an academic journal is, understanding that sort of information, searching for information, search techniques, search strategies. But I've sort of expanded as well over the last few years and talking about it in terms of managing and organising information using reference management software systems, evaluating resources, thinking about the currency, relevance, purpose while you're using information.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So, following on from that, I'm going to change the question slightly. Obviously, you work with databases and you show students databases. So, I'm asking this of all the librarians. So what's your favourite database and why?
Yeah. So, my favourite database is the Mass Observation
Good choice.
online.
Yeah.
So, Mass Observation online database is a database of primary search material or primary resource materials. And so this was a project started in the 1930s, 1940s, when a group of, I don't know what you'd call them, anthropologists, sociologists, wanted to, and I think actually this came from anthropology. So they wanted to put the focus, if you like, and put the spotlight on the way people lived from all sorts of different angles. And what they actually did is they went out and observed people. It might be in pubs or at their working places. They interviewed people. They asked people to write diaries. They asked them to do surveys of particular days. So, and they've captured all this information, and a lot of it has been digitised and searchable. So you can actually go in there and, see what people were thinking about certain events, or they might be writing down what they had for breakfast, what they got dressed in, and then they went off to work and did their day. It's fascinating sort of insight into, fascinating database.
Yeah, it is, and previously being a history student, I think it's fantastic, and also for those of you that don't know it, look it up. It is good. Maybe one of the kind of more famous people that was involved is Elizabeth Roberts, the housewife in Barron Furnace, where I'm from. So I loved listening to cassettes, and if you don't know what a cassette is, look it up on Wikipedia, and about her life. And that was, I made my husband eggs for breakfast, and it was all about the 1940s and 1950s or whatever. I can't remember the time period exact, but it's a fascinating insight into people's lives, isn't it? So it's a really valuable database. It's a really good choice, that, Paul. Jumping back then to a personal thing, can you tell us what your favourite book is and why it's left an impression? Yeah. So this has been a fun one for others that I've interviewed.
So I don't know if mine's come out as fun or not, but my answer to this question is my favourite book is the one I'm reading at the moment.
Good answer.
So, and what I'm reading at the moment is this one, and this is Steve Jones' Lonely Boy, Tales from a Sex Pistol. So it's Steve Jones's autobiography, although I think there was a ghostwriter reading it. So focusing on the book that you're reading at the moment is a favourite thing to do. But when I considered this, I think it would be very difficult to me to find a favourite book across all the different genres that I've read or might have read or do read over many years. But I like this second aspect of the question, what books have made an impression on you, I thought was really important. And I've actually chosen If This Is a Man by Primo Levi.
Okay.
And which is a Holocaust narrative.
Yep.
And I know you've read widely around this subject as well. So that sort of has made a deep impression on me. And it's something I've gone back to. There's something about bearing witness to the Holocaust, which has sort of taken me back to Holocaust narratives. Similar things like Elie Wiesel's Night, Lawrence Rees, The Holocaust, Escape from Sobibor. There's some titles there. And
none of these are easy reads, by the way.
No.
But they are very, very well written, and, I'm a firm advocate for what you're saying with this,
And I think, they are obviously terrifying, they're disturbing, but equally, really interesting history and that idea of bearing witness to the Holocaust, but also they can be uplifting as well. And one of the most recent ones I've read, and only a few months ago, was Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning. Mm-hmm. And, he's a psychologist and has looked into this, and he spent time in Auschwitz and found meaning through suffering. And it's an astonishing narrative, it really is, that you can be at that level and still find meaning in life.
It's a whole podcast in itself. We could probably talk about that all day between us. Very good choices. So, I mean, okay, changing back tack, you've been at Lancaster, 15 years almost?
18 years.
18, wow,
18
God.
years in a couple of weeks.
Wow, I remember when Paul started. He's a mere youngster in terms of time at Lancaster. What's been your best moment in your role at Lancaster? And there'll be many.
Yeah, there's quite a few. And I was thinking about this from several different perspectives. So I've got some personal highlights, being promoted to faculty librarian, because I came in as the short loan librarian, and sort of the job to have when I came in was subject librarian.
So let me just explain. Short loan, if for those of you who won't know it, back in the dark ages, we had a mini library within the library where you could borrow a book for, was it 3 hours and 24 hours?
24 hours and 3 hours, yeah.
And that's where the most popular books were. This is before the advent of e-books. And I don't think you could take them out of the library. Could you just use some of them?
Some you could take out and some you could.
And the fines were extortionate. And Paul was the mean, bad librarian that used to give people big fines, but he's much kinder now. Go on, Paul. Hey.
And over the years, it fell out of use because of increase of digital and online. So my promotion from, over a few years to faculty librarian, which a job I'm quite happy in now, was a highlight. I've got a teaching qualification, postgraduate teaching certificate in academic practice. That was a personal highlight. I've delivered papers at conferences and I wrote a chapter for a book. So those, I never really thought I'd ever do that sort of thing. So they were highlights. I think that the way the building has changed over the years and been refurbished, that's been a sort of an ongoing highlight, and you and I have seen it change so much over the years. So there's that's been really interesting to go through that process. But but I took more and more recently, day-to-day working with students, and you see light bulb moments when you think, well, I didn't know that. Why didn't anybody tell me that before? Or, oh, I get it now. And those sort of, they can be really, you can go home at the end of the day. And think,
they're just so rewarding, aren't they? That was usually my favourite thing. I have actually
achieved something today. Because somebody has learnt something from me. So those are highlights. Actually.
Cool. Okay, thinking a little bit out of the box now. We've invented time travel. Librarians are good at inventing things. So if you could travel back in time, what piece of advice would you give yourself as a student that you've learned as a librarian?
I would say get organised. This is something I tell people. I don't know if I'm necessarily in my own life all the time. But if you can have a process for dealing with information from I'm coming from a librarian's point of view, but what we do as librarians is so connected to the idea of research. So if you find something, what do you do with it? Do you record I would now, looking back, I would have recorded the reference. I would have uploaded the piece of information I needed. Well, I didn't need to upload it in my day, but I would have kept it in a folder somewhere. I'd have named that folder so I knew where to find it.
Yeah.
And I would have worked out a way of critically analysing that so I could get it into an essay. Yeah. I would have some process for doing that. And I think I'd wish I'd stopped when I'd had enough. So, I've got a 2,500 word essay. I need X number of perspectives here. This is the information I need. That's all I need. Get organised.
Yeah, that's good advice. I mean, me and Paul worked together for many, many years on the frontline desk in the library before we both became faculty librarians. And the amount of times over the years we would get students coming to the desk and saying, I've done my research and I'm writing up now and I'm doing my bibliography and I've got this really great paragraph that I want to quote, but I can't find where it's from. It was from a blue book. Can you tell me what it was? And you're like, no. So always make a note of the books and the papers that you're using.
That can be really frustrating. It can take time and at the end, but
So fantastic advice. Thanks for that, Paul. And final question before we wrap up. Can you tell us an unusual or an interesting fact about yourself?
I am 58 and I started learning the guitar at the age of 57. So that's a new thing in my life. It might be quite surprising to people, but I would recommend taking something up later in life. Or I would say to somebody, if you want to learn something, just go for it and do it. Because I wish I'd have started 30 years ago now. But it's very interesting because you're thinking about the way you're learning as well. So going back and having to learn something from scratch is very useful, actually.
Yes, and it's always good to keep the brain active.
Yes,
So if you get opportunities, people, take them, no matter what it is, whether it's learning a language, learning a new skill, playing the guitar. Just do it. Life's too short not to. So fantastic, Paul. Thanks for sharing your thoughts. Thank you for listening to this podcast. Please check out the other podcasts that we have from the library. And take care, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye.